Great. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited about this session that we're holding on discussing regulatory affairs, leadership perspectives, and 2024 survey insights. So today we're going to be looking at some of the key topics across life sciences, R&D teams, and also specific for pharmaceutical and medical devices. I'm Heidi Hattendorf, and I'll be moderating today's session. We're going to be meeting the executive leaders at Celegence who are going to guide us through the findings, but also share their own personal experiences with customers and within the industry. I'd like to first introduce Sonia Valuchami, CEO and co-founder of Celegence, together with Punya Abi, COO and co-founder of Celegence. Celegence is a CRO with a lot of expertise in both pharma and medical devices, and they've teamed up together with RAPS to conduct an industry survey looking at trends, tech, workflow, and investments in life sciences. They're here to share those results and their own perspectives.
Thank you, Heidi. I'm thrilled to be here today to share some groundbreaking insights from our latest research. This report highlights the innovative strides that we are making together in our industry, and it also reveals key trends and opportunities that can drive us all forward.
Thank you, Heidi. I agree with Sonia. The feedback to the survey and partnership in the industry have been invaluable in this journey. I'm excited to dive into the findings and share the learnings with each of you as Sonia and I add commentary based on our experience.
That's great. Well, let's get started. Here's a quick snapshot at what we're going to cover. We'll take you through the survey purpose, the objectives, and some of the responses. And then we'll really dive into 5 core themes that touch on pharma and medical devices. We'll tie it all together, and then of course we'll make it available on how you can get the report to get more of the story. Well, first, we were thrilled to have such an impressive response, almost 700 total participants to this joint survey. I think it really speaks to the interest and the commitment in the industry for busy professionals to take a minute to share their points of view, their experience, and to weigh in. So thank you to each of you who either participated in the survey itself or joined the call today. So from the 698, we then split the results in that data into 2 separate reports, one for medical devices and one for pharma. That gives you the opportunity to really look at what's relevant for a given sub-industry. And companies with combination products were grouped into the pharma report. The objective really was to get a pulse on the industry with so many changes, introduction of new tech workflows, also wanting to look at other trends like outsourcing, future direction, and then we wanted to be able to share this out to the industry, share with you. We really want to focus today on real use cases, investments, and the commentary behind it. So of course, there's many concepts to unpack, but like I said, we're going to focus on 5 core ones. So let's look first at the top challenges and opportunities, the investment areas for future, followed by technology and that adoption, and then partnership and opportunities there for outsourcing, followed by regulatory intelligence, and then we'll tie it all together. So starting with theme 1, the survey data showed that the top challenge was very consistent actually between both sides. The participants could select 2. And the top 2 challenges really were first, resources and bandwidth, and then followed by costs and managing budget. So Punya and Sonia, what did you think about those top 2 challenges? Did that resonate?
Yeah, for the number 1 greatest challenge, it wasn't a big surprise on bandwidth and resources. It was nearly the same for each with only a 1-point difference. And almost half the participants in each industry cited bandwidth and resources.
I would say the same for the challenge of costs and managing budget. There was a slight variation with medical devices at 39% and pharma at 31%. But what's more surprising is that a full 77% of medical device organizations and 57% of pharma organizations report a lack of resource to some degree to complete all of their 2024 priorities. And if you pull all of this together, the lack of bandwidth and resources and the challenges with costs and managing budget, and then look at trying to hit all of your 2024 goals, it's really the perfect storm. And we're seeing this firsthand with all of our discussions that we're having in the market on both sides for pharma and device.
Yeah, and I think from our experience, there are several factors driving this. Obviously, increased and changing regulations, the burden of maintaining an increasing device or drug portfolio. And one of the biggest drivers is managing current products, whether it's post-market surveillance for pharma companies or MDR maintenance for medical device companies. It takes time, effort, and focus. And meanwhile, companies are just eager to move on to the next drug or device launch.
Well said from both of you. Definitely the challenges were clear. Let's look now, though, at what can companies do to balance this and address. So looking at the survey results, we then grouped it into 3 different categories. Within technology, automation and AI, and then also the trusted expertise. So Punya, first, how would you describe the opportunity that companies have with technology?
The survey results make a lot of sense. From my experience, the companies who are truly embracing technology, automation, and partnering for expertise are the ones who are the most successful and proactive in leading the industry. With automation, the improvement to workflows and quality mean that teams can focus on higher value add activities in the business, and they can focus on exceptions or decision making. And with AI, we're seeing tremendous results already with companies using this. So, for example, in medical writing or in data extraction or summarization across documents. And we do offer solutions in this area and have been out in front of AI since the recent advent. And there's a constant improvement of the LLMs to help create a path that pairs human intelligence together with the technology.
Yeah, really powerful. And Sonia, how would you describe the value then of bringing in expertise to help overcome some of the challenges?
Yeah, I think that the partnerships and outsourcing are natural steps in regulatory affairs. So, finding the right competent partner with relative expertise is key to success. And it's really no different than a good hire versus a poor fit. And I think the niche regulatory knowledge in this area is really going to be key. It's important to find a company and a partner who has proven experience with health authorities, who's worked with the changing regulations, a partner that's on top of formats, and most importantly, one that leverages automation and AI, as Punya mentioned earlier. This is all going to be important in order to keep costs down. So I think the partnerships that can be established for just strategic initiatives are possible, and we see a lot of that in the medical device space. But we also see partners that are established for sort of ongoing operational support to offload the high volumes of work. And we're seeing more and more that ongoing operational support is required for both pharma and medical device companies.
Great. I like how you've tied together the technology and the expertise. Definitely a lot of potential here. The next theme that we're going to cover is around future investment areas. This is always one of the most interesting sections in research. So Pharma cited improving regulatory intelligence as the top investment area, whereas in medical devices weighed in as MDR, IVDR conversion. Sonia, how do these investment areas in pharma compare to what you've seen and heard with customers?
Sure. We're seeing a lot of focus on leveraging generative AI to enable companies to keep abreast of the changing regulations in a more efficient manner. Obviously, local expertise in the region is still required, but technology can always support a company to be able to monitor the regulations more proactively and then leverage that local expertise to focus on the application of the regulations and to devise a regulatory strategy.
Yeah, thanks. Well said. And Punya, how do these investment areas in medical devices compare to what you've seen and heard with customers?
I'm not surprised to see this. We've been hearing this for the past many years, the focus on IVDR and MDR compliance, and we're seeing more of the industry focus on the maintenance phase of these regulations. So companies in this space are looking to increase efficiency because they realize that their existing resource can't handle the volume of work that PMS documentation maintenance will require and continued compliance with MDR and IVDR will require. So a lot of them are trying to see whether outsourcing or technology or a combination of both can help them achieve sustainable compliance in the long term. So that was interesting to see from the survey results as well.
That is, and it's so interesting always to hear these direct experiences. Thank you. So let's move on then in theme 3 on the technology. So one aspect, of course, on technology is the impact of AI. Punya talked about automation and AI. We looked at maturity levels here in terms of some companies are at the POC stage, others are in early adoption, and then others further along. So we looked at use cases today, and then also where do companies see a need in the future. So both pharma and medical devices said that they see top use cases as automated report generation from multiple sources, and then also data extraction from documents. So in medical devices, we're seeing already 23% are incorporating AI into their company's medical device product. So then looking ahead, I think that's what's really critical too, into what are some of the identified needs. Then it starts to jump up to 50% or more for those areas. So Punya, looking at the medical writing, were you surprised to see 50% of pharma citing medical writing as an identified need?
Yeah, I wasn't at all surprised to see such a high number. First of all, it's great to see the actual use cases because that's what makes AI real and practical and moves us beyond the hype. We are hearing from a lot of companies who are looking to incorporate AI into their medical writing for improved consistency, efficiency, and to deal with high volumes. And we also notice how important it is to use AI together with human expertise to augment and multiply the capabilities of your staff. And the life sciences industry in particular is an ideal candidate for Gen AI-based process transformation because there's so many regulation and documentation requirements, and there's a high degree of repeat activities and a need for data extraction and pulling and comparing information from various sources, which this can dramatically ease the burden on teams, helping with the lack of bandwidth issue that we discussed earlier, and helping different groups like regulatory, quality, safety, and clinical work together. And with noting all this, we really can't completely rely on Gen AI without oversight. When it's paired with the right industry expertise professionals, medical writing with Gen AI has really significant potential. So that's been really exciting to see.
That is exciting. Thank you, Punya. It makes a lot of sense on the important blend of quality and content, Gen AI, and also human expertise. Sonia, how do you interpret the results? And do these use cases match what you are seeing and hearing from customers that you meet with?
Yeah, I did notice that there's consistency between pharma and medical device companies in many ways in terms of working with reports and data and information summarization. So it's really not a surprise given the amount of documents and the volumes that we've been discussing. I think what was more surprising was the difference in compliance gap analysis. So you can see that pharma has already been adopting AI for compliance gap analysis at 9%, while in the medical device industry, it's an identified need for almost over 50% rather. So I think that's interesting to note. And then I also think that key success criteria is important. So companies need to use AI effectively to assess opportunities and initiatives, and they need to look at how to best apply AI. We see a lot of companies and many of our customers even now choosing to pilot use cases. And one of the interesting questions being asked is, do we focus on high volume or high complexity? And obviously we're going to have costs associated with both areas, but we want to make sure we focus on the right area of sort of high value, and that this is not just for the short term, but also for the long term. So we want to make sure that these use cases, especially if they're complex, are driving the results that we're looking for.
Great. Well, really important points. I know there was a lot to cover and unpack on AI, rich topic. So, and there's also several articles that I know that have been written on this as well. So let's turn now to another element of technology on automation. We know that teams are overloaded. We heard that, we saw that on both tech and then also expertise can help alleviate this. Sonia, what are your thoughts on what the survey revealed on manual processes specific to pharma and medical devices?
Yeah, we saw that in pharma, over 80% of the companies have deployed a tool to support the management of dossiers. There's probably a bigger gap when you think about companies using robotic processing or bots or AI, but I think overall we can see that technology is being used pretty significantly in the pharma space. Within the medical device industry, only 55% have automation when we looked at how sort of the regulatory tech files are being managed. And I think obviously in the medical device industry, there's a wider range of products and processes. And there are many smaller companies which sometimes perceive a higher barrier for automation. The reality is that automation has been democratized over the last few years, and it's kind of more easily accessible to companies of all sizes, especially through partnerships and through leveraging vendors who are experienced in this space.
Yeah, it's a great point, Sonia. I think we see a lot of benefits from automation to help the workflow and build in compliance and checks and enhance security and traceability. And systems which are tailored for life sciences and the nuances specific to this industry. And we in particular work with companies of all sizes. So that could be from a 5-person company to a top 10 pharma or device company. And they can all benefit from automation, and they shouldn't see their size as a barrier to entry.
Yeah, well said. It absolutely, the automation is democratized. Well, we've talked about technology and expertise as ways to alleviate the burden on organizations. Let's look now specifically at theme 4 on outsourcing and partnering for that expertise. So how organizations really don't have to go it alone. So the data is telling us that 63% of pharma and 38% of medical devices outsource some of their regulatory affairs work. And then both pharma and medical devices are, of course, outsourcing for help with submissions. Then we see standard gap analysis in pharma and data governance. In medical devices, it's CEPR, CER consulting, and MDR, IVDR consulting. Punya, can you take us through the concerns, though, that you hear on outsourcing? How do the survey results match what you hear in the market in that area?
Yeah, sure. So as much as outsourcing and partnerships have helped companies accelerate their goals and missions, I still think there remains concerns and perceptions that hinder outsourcing. And it could be that a company had bad experiences, or they have no desire to move forward with outsourcing because of that, and they decide to keep everything in-house. But that's when we see additional burden on internal teams who are trying to do it all. And it's no surprise to me that knowledge of my business came out as number 1 in medical devices and number 2 in pharma. I think it's critical for a partner to have deep experience and expertise and hands-on knowledge. And so I think this makes a difference in a successful partnership and helps to jointly achieve the goals.
Yeah, I think that often there can be a perceived cost barrier. And we've seen that there are challenges with life sciences companies being able to manage budgets, but almost always the medium and the longer term costs come out higher when you don't have the right level of attention or the right expertise. And so when we think about something like MDR maintenance, for example, we are seeing a lot of interest, but only recently, from manufacturers that want to sort of learn how they can leverage automation and technology to keep their costs static or even decreasing over the next 3 to 5 years, given that the amount of work is not going to decrease, but there's a potential rise in cost to maintain those efforts and the compliance. Perhaps I think that maybe when the journey of MDR initially began, there was less of an understanding on what that burden would entail, but we are now seeing that that is going to be a big area of focus in the medical device industry. We also see that companies perceive high costs or huge costs because they think there's going to be a burden on vendor management and oversight, and that they're going to have to do a lot of hand-holding once they choose the partner that will help them through their outsourcing journey. But I think if you have a good partner with the right expertise, and this is where it comes down to knowledge, as Punya mentioned earlier, that ensures that there's going to be minimal hand-holding required by the manufacturers.
Well, thanks, Sonia and Punya. It's clear there's a lot of opportunity here. It really just needs to be vetted, handled with the right experts, freeing up those internal teams, saving additional costs, and better aligning skill sets. So great great commentary here. Let's look now at how you've approached this with customers. We saw in the survey, and of course, we've each heard from companies in the industry on concerns in outsourcing and partnership. In medical devices, this can often be a strategic play to outsource. Punya, can you walk us through how you've seen strategic outsourcing work with medical device manufacturers?
Yes, for sure. So the collaboration we've done with various device manufacturers, it's a great example of finding the right balance to provide strategic outsourcing. So these companies actually need help at a strategic level, not just at an operational level or behind the scenes. And these collaborations mean that Celegence can really represent our clients' interests, speak on their behalf, and bring in years of expertise and exposure to multiple notified bodies and health authorities. And this not only saves time for the medical device company, but it provides the right level of credibility to speak on MDR, IVDR requirements.
Yeah, and I think when done properly, this type of relationship can truly be a game changer because it allows companies to focus on new development and strategic initiatives. Strategic partners are going to be able to focus on ensuring compliance, while operational partners are going to support on the ongoing maintenance, kind of similar to a managed services model. And many companies are even looking for that sort of blended approach to help address the specialized models.
These are great examples, thanks. I think it gives a really nice balance between strategic and operational. So let's take that a step further on the theme of outsourcing expertise. Can you each comment on the credentials or the criteria that pharma and medical device companies should look for in an experienced industry partner?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to find a trusted partner with proven experience and industry-specific relevant expertise. And the certifications such as ISO 27001 or 9001, they're critical in making sure that your vendor or partner has the right processes in place. And it's really important to consider whether your partner has experience with a similar size company to yours, or if they've only worked with very small startups or a large top 50 company. So it's good to know their budgets and perspectives and what the needs are, because they'll all be different based on the company sizes that they've worked with. And then technology investments are important as well. I think you have to look at whether the company has technical guardrails, such as human oversight and processes for exceptions or more complex cases. So what evidence are you seeing of those guardrails within the vendor or partner that you're considering working with?
Wow, well said. Those are definitely really critical, especially now with so much technology. What would you add to that list, Sonia?
I definitely agree with this list. Building on the topic of guardrails, then it's about quality outputs and looking at the end game. A trusted partner is going to set up a solid review process, and they're going to involve you in the process with solid communication and clarifying questions and demonstrating true subject matter knowledge or expertise. I think that your partner should bring you new ideas, and they should definitely be able to demonstrate secure confidentiality and data privacy. We saw in the survey the concern that around sort of understanding my business. And so I think you really want to pressure test specific areas of knowledge with your potential supplier.
Makes perfect sense. Well said all around. These points can really help life science organizations select that right partner and also de-risk the process. Let's look now at theme 5. This is regulatory intelligence. So the survey results clearly show that this monitoring is in early stages. Companies give it a lot of high value, and we saw that in the importance as an investment standpoint. So the scale here shows all the way at the left from completely manual to monitoring and reactive, and then solid processes starting to form with limit analysis. And then from there, companies move into the strategic approach, but they lack automation. And then finally, a comprehensive approach ticks all the boxes with strong processes, staffing, and automation. That's all the way to the right. So as you can see, 29% in pharma and 39% in medical devices are operating at that strategic or comprehensive levels. Sonia, what's your view on this, and what are you hearing from companies about regulatory intelligence?
It's definitely a growing topic, and it's getting increased attention. We saw in the top investment areas for pharma that regulatory intelligence came out as number one. And the executives that I talk to are seeing the value and they want to get ahead and be proactive and really try to understand and look at what the data is telling them. I think this is another reason that life sciences companies are investing in tech and expertise. It's really about what the data is telling them to inform the strategy and then operationalizing wherever possible.
Yeah, I like that. Let's double click on that and look at some of the advantages.
I think first, companies who are embracing regulatory intelligence have a market advantage. These companies are going to be staying ahead of the regulations and planning, and they're going to be proactive. And all of this literally reduces the time that it takes on processes, and it gets them to value sooner to show the ROI. I think that one of the most significant aspects is how regulatory intelligence can help inform strategy. Now we're talking about regulatory intelligence being a strategic driver, not only a must-have cost.
Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, this shows that continuum that Sonia talked about, from staying current to actually moving ahead. Punya, what should a company consider for their regulatory intelligence approach?
Yeah, I've listed a few ideas here to get started. I think companies need to think about what reports and information they actually need and how those reports are going to be used within the organization. So, for example, what will the impact be to their particular product portfolio from a change in regulation? So, staying on top of changing trends is important, and it aligns with what we heard in the survey, that the number one skill set companies want to build or acquire in the next 2 to 3 years is knowledge of a changing regulatory landscape. So that means companies really want to be proactive and on top of their processes and operations in order to drive strategy and not be reactive, which is where a lot of companies are at. And I think getting assistance with regulatory intelligence means hiring professionals that are well versed in regulatory affairs, but also well versed in integrating the knowledge into the strategy with your operational team. And that helps set up the most effective framework. Sonia, would you add anything there?
Yeah, I think to build a robust regulatory intelligence strategy, companies need to gather intelligence on regulatory requirements, including submissions for clinical trials, marketing authorizations, and post-marketing maintenance, while also understanding the global and the regional regulatory nuances. I also think that impact analysis reports are essential to help organizations understand how the evolving regulations are going to affect their product portfolios and the existing processes, as you mentioned, Punya. Also, staying informed on current trends in regulatory operations and interpreting regulatory information can help set up streamlined processes and KPIs. I think we're also seeing that entering new markets can be a challenge for some companies. While companies may have relevant expertise in the markets that they're already active in, there's nuances in each country, and the regional differences concerning, for example, PV requirements might become a challenge. And so in such cases, we're seeing that companies are partnering with outside firms to be able to gain access to information and knowledge or expertise more efficiently.
That makes sense. I mean, if you look at the survey, there's a lot of interest in regulatory intelligence, but then when you looked at the maturity, not everyone's there. So these are really good tips and ways to look at it that companies can move ahead. Wow, well, this is great. You've both covered a lot of ground, a lot of great insights, not only valuable insights from the report, but also your own perspectives based on your knowledge and experience in the industry. Well, how about if each of you summarize some of the key takeaways here?
Sure. I think that if we tie this all together, we're seeing that strained resources and budgets mean that companies need to find alternative ways to accomplish their missions in both the pharma and the medical device industry. I think I'm really encouraged to see that there's recognition that even further investment is planned in post-market surveillance areas and maintenance. And I think that tech investments can go and will go a long way here with the automation and the AI investments. We even covered real use cases, and we're increasing maturity in these areas working with our clients. And we think that the partners that are going to be most successful are going to enable pharma and medical device companies to keep their costs static and to even potentially decrease costs for these companies despite the increased volumes and despite the increased regulation. And I think the only real way to accomplish this is through the use of technology, and those partners who have both the business expertise or the regulatory knowledge, in addition to the tech expertise, are going to be the most successful in supporting the life sciences industry in the future.
Great, excellent summary, Sonia. Thank you. And Punya, what are some of your key takeaways?
Sure. For both industries, I definitely think we see a continued trend for outsourcing and partnership in the area of medical writing, specifically using AI to complement. And I think it's not an all or nothing or in-house versus outsource or human versus machine situation. It's complementary and augmented by both things. And outsourcing to an expert partner to extend your team and leverage technology to complement your internal process will actually help multiply your team's bandwidth and help you deal with some of those resource constraints that you're facing. And I think that way the industry can let their internal staff use precious time to focus on the most important problems at hand. We saw also with specifically the device and diagnostic industry, they're continuing to prioritize and invest not only in MDR and IVDR remediation, but also coming to terms with the fact that maintenance of all the documentation is also going to pose a challenge, and it's going to be critical. As we discussed earlier, the interest for most companies is to move on to the next launch or drug development or device, but maintaining and staying on top of compliance activities for drugs or devices that you have in the market is essential, and it will save the time and cost in the long run if you have a strategy in place for how to maintain that compliance in a sustainable way. And then finally, it was really refreshing to see the interest in regulatory intelligence, as Sonia said, it being a priority for companies and being a strategic differentiator is key. And we've been working in this space for many years, specifically in the area of regulatory intelligence, and we've seen how it's evolved and how companies are starting to view it as a priority. So that was great to see as well.
That's great. Absolutely excellent information and insights throughout this whole session. Thank you, Sonia and Punya, for those insights in your commentary. I'm sure you'll agree that there's even more to the story in the full report and in both reports, the industries. So with that, the report is available here, and we'll also have information fully available as a follow-up. As we mentioned, there's 2 specific reports for pharma and then one for medical devices. You're welcome to get both. And since Sonia and Punya covered so many different topics, we thought it enriched content. We thought it would be easier. We'll just collect questions and we'll come back individually to be able to respond to those. But again, we'd like to take a moment to say thank you for joining this, and thank you to those who participated in the survey. It's really the way to help move the industry forward and get such valuable information.
Thank you, Heidi.
Great.
Thanks all
Thank
for
you very
joining.
much.
Everyone.